Welcome to Salad with a Side of Fries. I'm your host, Jenn Trepeck, talking wellness and weight loss for real life. We're here to clear up the myths, misinformation, bad science, and marketing to teach you how to eat and how to cheat. Are you ready? I'm having salad with a side of fries. This week, we're talking about Kodiak waffles. So this one comes from Rachel W. She asked, what do you think of this brand? The waffles, either the plain or chocolate chip, are my favorite. And I really hope you like them because my entire freezer is full of Kodiak breakfast options. So Rachel, here we are. Thank you for submitting this one. I know this brand is very popular. Like I've seen it before, but we've never I don't think we've looked at it together. I always thought of it as like the pancake or waffle mixes. I didn't realize that they had pre-made frozen things. So this is new. And looking at their site, they have a lot of options. It's a little overwhelming. So for today, we're going to focus on Rachel's favorite, the frozen waffles. If you want us to look at any of their other products, you can submit it. Easiest is the website, asaladwithasideoffries.com, or social media. I'm at Jenn Trepeck. So, by the way, Happy Healthy Hub members get priority on their nutrition nugget suggestions. So, Hub members, you can submit through the message board there too. So, okay, Kodiak's website, we can learn a lot about this brand. So, it's funny. So, their logo is this bear. And then it says 100% whole grain. So my first instinct is to say these probably are not low glycemic, even if they're made with better ingredients. And we'll see as we look through it. And then the bear in the logo, I guess it fits their tagline where they say, feed wild adventures with a real breakfast. So then it says, seize the spontaneity of summer, the nostalgic feel of firm dirt under your feet, the long sunny days when more things become possible, the epicness of wild adventures. To make the most of your summer, start with a real breakfast packed with protein, whole grains, and a whole lot of flavor. So, okay, admittedly, I don't think my summers look like this much. I mean, maybe they did when I was a kid going to camp, but, I suppose maybe that just means I'm not their target, but we'll see. Their site also, this whole little blurb reinforces to me that, again, they're probably not so low glycemic because their expectation is that you're fueling this very active, adventurous day rather than like most of us who are sitting at a computer. So then their About Us section, they say their mission is to inspire wilder, wide open lives by feeding epic days through real breakfast. They talk about, I'm assuming it's the founder, that as like an 8-year-old, he was selling his grandfather's heirloom flapjack recipe like door to door. And so they say, staying committed to their product like it's an old family recipe, unclear if it actually is the grandfather's recipe. I digress. Who knows? Either way, it continues to just reinforce who their customer is. And they say specifically, Kodiak is made for those daring enough, brave enough, and willing to feed that thing that craves escape from the boring stuff, the expected stuff. It's made for everyone hungry to get out there and expand the day's range. Kodiak is made for you, so choose an unboring breakfast crafted with 100% whole grains, a whole lot of protein, and wildly delicious flavor. So, okay. Let's get to it. Again, it's this whole grain thing. Oh, they do have a philanthropic arm. They work with nonprofits like the Vital Ground Foundation. So if that's important to you, awesome. When we click to their frozen breakfast, like I said, they have a lot of things there. It says, power up your mornings with Kodiak frozen breakfast. So then they say, sometimes, most mornings, there's no time to cook from scratch. Make Kodiak frozen breakfast foods in seconds. They're crafted with 100% whole grains, protein, and a whole lot of flavor for the essential nutrients and minerals you need, while also satisfying your cravings. It's a quick, nourishing breakfast that brings that good old homemade taste. All right, we're going straight to the frozen waffles. I will say, first thing that I notice is the price. And normally when I mention the price, I'm like shocked at how expensive some things are. So this one is $6 and it says there's 4 servings in the box. So I don't know if I'm just a jaded New Yorker at this point, but that seems really reasonable to me. At the same time, like it kind of gives me a little pause on maybe what the ingredients are that they're able to get there with that. So I don't know. Then they tout no added sugar for a hearty yet wildly delicious breakfast, packed with 16 grams of protein per serving to help keep you fuller longer, crafted with 100% whole grains because it works as hard as you. Heat and eat for a real quick fueling breakfast. Okay, nutrition facts. So these are the plain frozen waffles. Like I said, there's 4 servings in the box. A single serving is 2 waffles. In those 2 waffles, we get 210 calories, 9 grams of fat with 1 gram of saturated fat, 17 grams of carbs with 2 grams of fiber, 2 grams of sugar, 0 of which are added sugar, 16 grams of protein. The micronutrients are basically negligible, like there's not much of anything in there. It's worth noting there's 310 milligrams of sodium, which I don't necessarily normally highlight the sodium, but it strikes me as kind of a lot for something that's a glorified version of flour and water. I don't know. Like, admittedly, I don't know what other frozen waffles are, but that just, I don't know. It seemed like a lot to me. So looking at this, though, before we go to the ingredients, it's funny that they mentioned micronutrients because there's basically none in here. They mentioned the vitamins and minerals that we need. We're not getting them. There's more fat than I expected. So 9 grams of fat is higher than our usual rule of 5. And to decide if that's really a deal breaker, we'll want to see in the ingredients what the sources of that fat are. The 16 grams of protein is what they said we would get. For perspective, that's a little more than like 2 ounces of a cooked meat or 2 eggs. So for a meal, we would need to add like 2 to 4 more ounces of protein for this to really qualify as a meal. If it was a snack, that's kind of what we're getting here. And then on the net carbs, so again, it's more than our single digit guideline. So there's 17 grams of total carbs, and then subtract the 2 grams of fiber. So we're at 15 grams of net carbs. I'm kind of surprised also that there isn't more fiber in here, considering just like the vitamins and minerals they were touting that there's fiber in there. And maybe for those pieces, maybe it's some of their other products that have more fiber, more on the micronutrient front. And as a reminder, with our rule of 5 on the fiber, ideally we're looking for a single processed food if we're going for these that would have at least 5 grams of fiber. Okay, on the ingredients, 100% whole grain wheat flour, water, wheat protein isolate, eggs, canola oil, whey protein isolate, buttermilk, 100% whole grain oat flour, sunflower lecithin, egg whites, date powder, leavening, which is sodium acid pyrophosphate and baking soda, and then natural flavors and sea salt. So then they have a note that says, due to changing conditions on the mountain, broken wagon spokes, shortages, surpluses, and ever-growing appetites, exact details regarding this item may differ. Please consult details on packaging for most up-to-date information. So I don't know if you guys heard our nutrition nugget from a couple weeks ago about the Trader Joe's sweet and sour gummy worms. This little note on their ingredients is giving like TJ's vibes, the Trader Joe's vibes of the joke. But so basically, make sure that you're looking at the package of whatever it is that you're buying as things change. I think at the ingredient front, specifically, we wanted to know about the fat sources. So the fat is the canola oil and the buttermilk. Neither are doing our health any favors. I suppose at least the canola oil isn't hydrogenated or bastardized in some way, at least that they're telling us. And so same for the buttermilk too. So I suppose to some degree, these ingredients are a little more whole in air quotes. I give them credit that I think the ingredient list isn't wildly long. There aren't a ton of hidden things in there, it seems like. I suppose all in for me, this would be a sometimes on occasion kind of thing. The challenge to me is also like what to add to them. Because to balance out the carbohydrates, our options are fat or protein. We already have more fat than we really want. At the same time, it's not the kind of fat that the human body needs more of, like the omega-3s, like we talked about in this week's episode. So I don't know, I'm sort of on the fence there. And then with the carbs, we definitely need more protein. So if this was breakfast, like, are we adding more eggs or a breakfast meat? And then the caveat on the breakfast meat is other salts. And so I don't know, it feels like a whole can of worms. But I suppose if you were trying to manage the carbohydrates, you could do 1 waffle instead of 2. I think they're just recognize that then you're also cutting the fiber and the protein that, the bit that we are getting. Of course, like I said, this was the plain flavor. So then consider whatever toppings you're going to put on it as part of your, breakfast equation. I don't know. I mean, I feel like let's use it to change things up, the on occasion versus the staple. So, Rachel, I hope this helps. Friends, again, like I said, if you want us to look at other options from Kodiak, let us know. Well, there you have it. As always, everybody, I'm your host, Jenn Trepeck. Connect with me on Instagram or all social media. I'm at Jenn Trepeck, JENNTREPECK. Website is asaladwithasideofries.com. Pick your platform, send a message. I love hearing from you, your takeaways, your ideas, your questions. This is also the easiest way to learn more about working with me as your coach. And Dr. Eric Osansky, thank you again for joining us this week. And friends, if you are not already a member, join us in the Happy Healthy Hub. You'll go to asaladwithasideofries.com/membership. This shows your support for this podcast, this community, and above all, supports your health. On top of this week's episode and full video with behind-the-scenes content, your 24/7 Ask Me Anything on the community board, you'll get this week's recipe for the Easy Fruit Compote. Well, friends, that's it for today's episode of Salad with a Side of Fries. Congratulations for making yourself and your health a priority. Thanks so much for joining us. Be sure to click subscribe or follow on your favorite podcast platform. Share us with a friend, and we'll be back next week. Always remember, you deserve it, and you are worth it. Happy healthy.